important. And feel free to write your questions, remarks in the chat. We will discuss it after the presentation. Then we still have 30 minutes for discussion. What are we going to do today? First of all, I'm doing a first welcome. Then I will hand over to our head of program, Lynn Feldkötter, for the welcome remarks. Then Dorra Zairi is going to present. Unfortunately, Angie Martinez, she is sick today, but we are very happy that Dorra will do the full presentation on her own. After that, we still have time for discussion, and at 12:30 Central European time, we are going to close. All right, then I just stop sharing for 1 second and let me hand over to our head of program, Lynn Feldkötter, for the welcome remarks. Please, Lynn, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Stéphane. Bonjour, mesdames et messieurs. Et comme Stéphane a dit, la séance sera en anglais. Bon, pour cela, je vais continuer en anglais. Dear ladies and gentlemen, honored guests, partners and colleagues. So, as Stéphane mentioned, my name is Lynn Feldkötter, and I am the head of the program Agri-Business Facility for Africa, ABF, which has the pleasure to hosting today's Exprt Talks. So the Agri-Business Facility for Africa is a GIZ program funded by the German Federal Ministry for Economic Development and Cooperation, and we are co-funded by the European Union under the Samoa Agreement with the Organization of African, Caribbean, and Pacific States. So through this program, we support agribusiness in becoming stronger, more competitive, and more climate resilient, particularly in the cocoa, maize, and livestock value chains. So from my side, a very special welcome goes to Dorra Zairi, our senior expert from the Import Promotion Desk, who will share her insight with us today. So we are really delighted to have you and the Import Promotion Desk with us as a presentation, and as your presentation will highlight how the Import Promotion Desk can empower SMEs to access to European markets through practical support, expert guidance, and meaningful business connections. Before we begin, allow me to briefly outline why the work of IDP is so relevant, both for our partner countries, but also for a broader context of development cooperation. Let me start with, especially in this time when development cooperation is under considerable public scrutiny in Germany and in Europe, initiatives such as IDP play an increasingly important role. The IDP demonstrates how economic interests on both sides can be aligned to achieve meaningful and sustainable development. It's an approach that continues to receive a broad political support in Germany. So the IDPs helps build and strengthen long-term trade relationship between European importers and companies from selected partner countries in the developing and emerging markets by mediating trustworthy trade partnerships. The IDP not only opens doors for European businesses, but also creates tangible economic opportunities for SMEs abroad. For small and medium-sized enterprises in our partner countries, the IDP facilitates access to EU market and support them in meeting its high quality and sustainability standards. In doing so, the IDP contributes to lasting economic development and forms an essential bridge between the development cooperation and the foreign trade. So therefore, I'm very much looking forward to this upcoming presentation, and I hope that you, dear audience, will gain valuable insights and perhaps even identify new opportunities and entry point for your own business relationships. So let me thank you, and thanks for being with us, and enjoy the presentation. Thank you, and back to you, Stefan.
Thank you very much, Lynn, for those nice welcome remarks. We highly appreciate. Thanks a lot. Yeah, and I will not use much more time. Let us hand over to Dorra. And Dorra, please open your camera, your mic, and feel free to share your presentation, please.
Okay. Thank you very much, dear Lynn and Stefan, for the presentation and for introducing Import Promotion Desk. So my name is Dorra, and I prepared this presentation with my colleague Angie, who unfortunately couldn't make it, but I'm here to present for both of us. So thank you all for your attendance and for being here. So this is a little bit about us. This is my colleague Angie. She's a food engineer originally, and she's been working in the program of IPD for many years and mainly responsible currently of Asian countries. She works in Cambodia, Sri Lanka, and Indonesia, and she focuses on all what is processed, so natural ingredients, everything that comes from nature and is processed in any way or form. And we both specialize in sourcing companies, growers, cooperatives that want to enter the EU market. And as Stefan and Lynn explained, our work is to help them reach buyers in Europe. And this is me. I've been working in IPD since 4 years. Before that, I was working in fair trade certification. I was also an auditor for social and ethical audits. And I'm working as an expert sourcing and marketing in IPD, focusing in various countries in North Africa, Morocco, Egypt, and in Brazil, and I'm working in the fresh sector and in the processed. So the idea today is to give you a little bit of insight on the EU market, the requirements, and IPD, and how our work can help you navigate to enter the EU market. So the European market, as you all know, is full of opportunities, but it also has a lot of requirements. So this is a little bit of data that is available to all of us on the EU website. So the Monitoring EU Agri Food Trade always publishes data about the increase and the evolution or decrease of imports from the European countries in terms of agricultural products. You can see here it's a snapshot and shows a little bit the evolution throughout the last 3 years, 2023 to 2025. The EU population, of course, almost 450 million. This is the last data from 24. That's as many potential customers and consumers. Germany is, of course, a very big market with 84 million, and the UK as well is a very big market. So the number of customers in the EU is 450 plus million consumers. And the EU agricultural food imports in the EU are quite important. You can see here the numbers. By June 2025, the number was about 5.3 billion. So the major imports, of course, we all know, cacao and coffee are very important, but so are fruits and nuts, spices, oilseeds, and spice and seafood. So it's still one of the major, largest, and most demanding markets in the world. This is again a little bit of numbers that you can dive in details once you receive the presentation, and it's also of course available online. It's the same website. You can see here in terms of numbers the evolutions of the in the specific categories. As I said, cocoa and coffee tops this, but also fruits and nuts comes second in this, all seeds, and so forth and so weiter. It's all the details can be checked here, and I think it gives you a good image of how the European market is important for whoever wants to invest in export. So the key drivers, of course, the European consumers got used to consume every product throughout the year, which means the European buyers need to fill up the windows of the European production for products that are produced in Europe. And for products that are not produced in Europe, they need to be supplied from elsewhere. So the exotic products like avocados and berries are coming from different countries. Although berries are produced in Europe, the production of the European countries does not allow for a full supply for the whole year. That's an example of how the windows need to be fulfilled, and African producers, growers and exporters can pitch in and fill in these windows. So it's a very good window for producers from the African continent. Also, logistically, it's an advantage to other continents such as Asia and Latin America. Of course, there is always a need for investment to meet the requirements, whether it's the certifications that are required by retailers, but most importantly, the regulations that are required by the EU law to be able to do export. There are also, of course, logistical challenges to keep the products fresh, to respect the requirements of the sizes and the quality. And I will go a little bit more into detail about such requirements, but it's also very important to keep in mind the EU Green Deal, which by 2025 aims at a climate neutral continent. And for instance, one of the purposes is to increase the organic farming up to 25% of the total agriculture by 2030. So all these points do drive the demand from the European buyers for specific products, specific quality, quantities, and requirements. So this is a little bit of what we do in IPD to guide the partner companies and partner export promotion organizations to have more information about the European markets and the demands and the requirements. So this is a little bit of a value chain. This is for fresh produce, for instance. Of course, the grower, exporter, packer comes in the beginning. Then we have the whole service provider, which can be dedicated suppliers for supermarkets. They can be direct end buyers that have their own supply chain. Then there is the packer, and depending on the product, the different ways here of the service provider are the chain is longer or shorter. There is also, of course, the wholesale buyers. There are then the products that go to processing. Once they're bought, the processing sometimes is semi-finished in the growing country and it's finalized in the end consumer country before going to the supermarket. For instance, the end consumer packaging can be started, for instance, in the growing region, and then be finalized in Europe before being in supermarkets. But sometimes the whole process is done in the country of origin, which is better in terms of value added. And of course, there are all different kind of shops. There are specialized shops, there are wholesale markets, and there are supermarkets. And all of these do have different requirements. This was just an illustration of the supply chain. And there is a lot of information that can be also found on the website of our partner, which is CBI, which is also a program similar to Import Promotion Desk, and we do work together in synergies, so to support our partner companies and organizations. This is also, I think, very interesting to know. This is also for fresh produce. This is from statistics, also from CBI, which is, as I said, a Dutch organization program that does similar work as Import Promotion Desk, and to see the importance of the market shares between wholesalers, supermarkets, and you can see that there's a big important quantities that are going to the wholesalers, but also the supermarkets. And these data, of course, are different from one year to another, but I think it's very important to understand a little bit the market segmentation in the fresh produce sector here, for example. And of course, there are also the idea of a lot of growers is to always sell directly to the supermarkets, but often it does have to go through the wholesale sale or the middleman before getting to the supermarket, or what we call also dedicated suppliers, which are buyers that buy from producers and then sell to the supermarkets. Here a little bit of insights for processed food. So all what comes from nature and is processed in any way or form, whether dried, frozen, or made into powder, any kind of processing. Of course, there is a big movement of healthy consumption from COVID until now. It's more and more important for end consumers. So, for instance, there is the movement of Beyond Meat, which is meat made of course, plant material based. Sustainability, of course, is a very big other driver of the European market. Alternative meat proteins, as shared now. There is a big interest in all what's coming from the nature, the gut health, having a healthy diet, and also at the same time having a convenient, healthy snack. It's also very important. So in all what is healthy for the internal system, as I said, the gut, so beauty from within. So this is, I wanted to share in this slide and the slide that I shared before here, what's driving the opportunities and markets in Europe. So this one, and here the idea was a little bit to give you the insights of what was found in the last trade fair. For instance, Anuga is one of the biggest trade fair that happens every 2 years. 1 year it's Anuga in Germany, Cologne, and 1 year it's YAL in Paris. And both these trade fairs attract all kind of buyers in different sectors, in processed fruits, vegetables, herbs, spices, nuts. And it's a very big opportunity to do a market research first and then find buyers. And it's one of the trade fairs where IPD participates with the partner companies and the partner export promotion bodies from the different partner countries. So as said earlier, the European market has a lot of opportunities, but of course it's also coming with a lot of requirements that need to be followed by the whole supply chain, starting from the producer until the end seller that will be having the products on the shelf. So it's very important, of course, to differentiate here between what is the law and what are the voluntary certifications. So the law, which is mandatory by the different countries and by the EU law. So there is first the European Commission laws, and it's all publicly available. Here it's all shared in this presentation that you can look at. And then each country might have additional requirements. Then we have the certifications, which are voluntary to show additional compliance that follow what I shared earlier of the evolution of the market trends, what drive the market. So a lot of what's related to the health and to the ethics of production. And some of these voluntary certification, I might say, are almost like required by the buyers. Without them, it's very difficult to enter the European market. Depending on the sector, different certifications apply. These are a little bit of examples of certifications. I will go more into details in the following slides. So you can look at the regulations as a pyramid. You have at the bottom the law, so the legislations on food safety, on minimal quality requirements, on the MRLs and the use of chemicals. Then you have so that's obligatory. That's all what's from the law, of course, is obligatory, whether it's your local laws in your countries about production or the laws of the importing countries where the buyers are for the export market. So that is the law and it's obligatory. Then we have what is added to be able to enter into competition with the others, and in some time, as I said, are almost like regular needed. Without them, you cannot enter in the export market. So you have the purchasers' preferences that kind of regulate this and influence this. So the quality requirement, the health requirement, the packaging and labeling requirements that are in addition to what is required by the law. And then, of course, you have the customer preferences, as I said, of sustainability, of ethical sourcing, and of healthy food, basically. So we have legislative and non-legislative requirements for the EU. So here is a little bit of an example. So you have the European Union, of course, it's a very one big market with the principle of the free movement of goods. So the EU legislation, of course, defines the requirements that are mandatory for the 27 member states. And additionally, you have additional regulations on national level. So here it's an example, for instance, you have the product-related regulation on food hygiene, general food law, safety regulation that are at EU level. And here, since we are here talking to you from Germany, we just took one example, of course, of one very German product, which is beer. So, for instance, you have additionally the national law that adds to what the EU state regulates. There is an additional law from Germany that regulates this specific product. This is just an example to show you there is the EU law, there is the country law of each country you want to export to might have additional laws. So here I'm not going to go in the detail, but this is to show you the must-have legal requirements. They're all available on the website of the EU Commission. So there is the standards for food safety and hygiene, the general food regulation, flavoring, the supplement directive, good manufacturing practices, and food hygiene. They're all found on the regulation 178 from 2002, but there are also additional regulations. So it's always very important before venturing and starting into export, of course, to see and check what are all the laws. And a lot of these laws do evolve, so it's always better to check online. There are some regulations from the EU that are obligatory. They're all obligatory, but you have some voluntary certification that can help you into getting there, like HACCP, for instance, for food regulation, food hygiene. So the must-haves of legal requirements, this is a non-exhaustive list, just to give you an example of where to look. There's a second page of this, so about what I said, the food regulations for the labeling, the maximum residue level, very important, of course, and this one always evolves. It's very important to always check it to know what are the minimum minimum residues allowed for what you want to export to Europe. Of course, there is a novel food regulation. Food that has not been approved by the EU cannot be sold, and there are non-limited lists of product-specific regulation. And of course, it's very important to follow the rules of the EU DR and all what's corporate responsibility, of course, to be able to export to the EU, because there's regulations that have been implemented for the buyers, the end buyers, and for these regulations to be followed by them, the beginning of the supply chain has to follow it. So, but don't let these rules and regulations scare you. Of course, this is a lot of work that you can start from the beginning of getting orientated on this on your own, but there are programs like us that can help you getting to know more this, but a lot of information is available online and you can access it. So I encourage you to go and check it for each of your product specifics. So of course, the CSDR, the Corporate Sustainability Due Diligence, is very important. It applies to all the EU and non-EU companies with this minimum revenue, including exporters from different countries from Asia and Africa need to make sure that they follow this so that they can export to European buyers. So there needs to be a system in place to identify risks for the workers, for the environment along the supply chain from the beginning to the end. There needs to be a system to mitigate adverse impacts of the production, and everything needs to be monitored and documented. And there needs to be also mechanism for grievance and all this. CSDR, we also have presentation, as you can see in my presentation later on, we also have training on this for the partner companies and business support organizations that help exporters. Of course, there is a system of documenting compliance, non-compliance. Everything needs to be documented to show that we know what are the risks in our sector of work and how do we mitigate it and how do we deal with non-conformities. And all this need to be shown along the whole supply chain. So the producer, the person that comes in the middle, and the end buyer, they all need to prove this, that they have this in place. And that's why at your level, at the production level, in the different countries, you need to also have this in place. Okay, so now I talked about the legal part, and now I wanted to talk a little bit about the international certifications. So the international certifications, as I said, they are voluntary. They come as requirement by the buyers, and without them, you cannot to sell to buyer 1 or 2. They are focused on specific characteristics, and there are different standards for different products, and there are different labels. And the goal is to ensure additional quality, additional safety, additional proof of the environment being respected, the rights of workers being respected, the quality being there. So these 3 pillars here. So, for instance, there are a lot, as I said, of certifications, but some of them, without global gap, it would be very difficult to do any export of fresh produce to Europe, for instance. Now, more and more, the ethical certification is also required. So, GRASP is an add-on to Global Gap, for instance, to ensure that there is an assessment of the impact socially and on the workers' health. Spring is also more and more important. This is the logo for Spring, and it's about the water. How do we manage the water usage? For instance, SMETA is an additional ethical standard, and here it's to ensure the ethical, safe production of the products. And this certification, for instance, is highly demanded in the UK market. It's more and more demanded in other European markets. Supermarkets, suppliers require it. And the advice here is to go by product, to know what your market demands and to follow that. Here other certifications that are also non-legislative requirement, but more and more demanded. So BRC, for instance, it's for all what's processing of the fruits or handling of other products. IFS, it's also for the it's health and safety, but it's much more in detail. So the starter certification, I would say, is HACCP. When you have no international certification, it's the first one to get the health and safety, but then you go to work through and reach the international feature standard, which is much higher. Then you have other voluntary certifications that might be asked for per specific sectors, per specific buyers, like fair trade and the different fair trade certifications. So this is, for instance, the one where I used to work in the certification body, but there are many others. There's the fair wild, there is a fair trade, separate words. The organic, of course, if you want to sell organic to the EU, you need to get the EU organic certification, not just the local organic certification. It needs to be this one. It's for every producer or processor that wants to export. It's basically a sea of certification, and I can understand it's a bit, it gets overwhelming. And there are the, as I said, the ethical certification, there are the production certification that show that the environment is respected. There are ones that focus more on the health of workers. There are ones that go a little bit over all the different topics, and there are the organic certifications. And even, as I said, for the organic, if you're, for instance, exporting to the US, it would be the USAD, but for the Europe, it would be the European certification that needs to be in place. HACCP, as I said earlier, the different ISOs. So there are a lot of certifications, the SMETAs, and to help you navigate this, voluntary certifications that, as I said, some of them are almost like requirement because every buyer asks for it, like GRASP for fresh sector and processed, you need at least HACCP, and then depending on the product, it might be something else. There are websites that can help you. For instance, there is this website, it's called Standards Map, and you can enter what is the focus, what are the products that you have, what is the industry, and you can see they have a table that shows you the different certification focus, what industry does it appeal to, what are the benefits, what does the certificate shows. For instance, here you have about the ISO 1401, it's environmental management, all industries, helps organization reduce the environmental impact. So what do you need to do? Once you have your legal requirements met, the EU regulation met, and the country specific where you are selling, if there are additional ones per product, the second thing to know is, of course, which additional certificates that are required by the different product sector you are in for the sector that you want to export to. So you need to understand your company's values and sustainability objective also. You need to know what are the expectations of the consumers and regulations that the retailers and buyers and different sectors that you want to enter. And there are some priorities that you need to set depending on the market you want to reach. And of course, we know certifications is additional investment of money and time. That's why you need to invest time to know which certification is right for you. And the import permission desk, like some other partner programs, we do support our partner organizations understand a little bit what is required and to be ready for export before going to trade fairs, for instance, in Europe. So the regulatory development in general about the legal requirements that I was talking about, there's stricter rules because there is stricter rules about the contamination levels, the stricter rules for health and safety, and stricter rules for sustainability. So the European buyers are getting more rules to follow themselves. So this means that the rules are being pushed down also the whole supply chain to be responsible, and the suppliers need to follow these rules. So the buyers do push the responsibility to the suppliers, but they also need to follow these strict compliance rules. So that's why the rules are getting a bit harder also at the grower side and processor side. So on this presentation, you will have links to our website, also link to our Dutch partner that also develops a lot of interesting product facts sheets. Of course, the ITC, that is very interesting and very important source of knowledge for whoever wants to enter the export market. There is also the EU Export Help Desk that gets you information about statistics, info on the requirements, the legal requirements. So it's very important to do your research. So I hope this has been interesting, this part about the regulation. Now, I think I'm a little bit over time. I wanted to ask if I can still go on.
Yes,
Stefan?
please.
Okay.
Yes, please. You can still go on. Of course, if we close at around 12 o'clock, it's no problem. You have still enough time.
Okay. And maybe I take a moment then for questions, if there are questions, because I know that I presented a lot of things. So Stefan, if there are any questions from anyone, please do let me know.
Yes, it depends on you. If you want, you can do so. There are already some questions in the chat, especially French questions, and maybe Lou can help to translate those directly into English.
Yeah, that was why I opened my camera. If we do a slight pause for question, I will try to translate to my best. So first of all, there was a question on the SPG certification. If you could tell more about this specific certification, but also, yeah, so maybe starting with this one, and then I can ask the other question because they are going together.
I think if we have questions of specific certifications, maybe it's not going to be interesting to everybody, but because SPG, it's a lot of different certifications. So it's BRC, EcoSense. I think I will go back a little bit here. So a lot of this, that's the question is about SPG certifications, and it can be different, related to different certifications. So I'm not sure which one here is.
Maybe, s'il vous plaît, Kossi, si vous pouvez préciser votre question dans le chat, ce serait apprécié. I ask if what specifically they want to know, so then maybe it's easier.
Because
yeah.
But what I can say in general. As I said, all these certifications have different interested markets, and there is this website where you can go and check details. Also, all the certifications and the standards, it's public information. So always my advice is always to go on the website, read the standard, understand what they want before paying for an audit, wasting the money, realizing we are not ready. So first, look up the standard, check what is the checklist, do your own gap analysis. What do I have in place? What do I miss? It's all public information that you can reach and you can start working on your own with the support of local organizations, with support of export promotions bodies in your country, and with the support of programs like ours that we're all together here. So do the research here. I think you have a lot of information that you can start from and check what are the requirements. Now, I'm not an expert in the SPG certification. That's why I wasn't sure which one you're talking about. But this is my general advice. And if there is a follow-up question, I'm happy to try to help there. Thank you.
Yeah, amazing. Then follow-up question from another participant. Is it so I think you answered it slightly, and the thing is maybe you won't be able to answer that one as well, because they ask specifically for support, like who is really the the partners who support cooperatives or MSMEs in the African context or Cameroon in particular to access the European market. But I think what you referred to is already part of the answer. You already named some tools, you already named some institutions that are supportive, including your program, and the answer would be like then to try to find out who is helping in your specific field and then come closer to these persons. But if you have maybe some advice for Cameroon in particular, because this was a question, and then I will follow up with another question that is in English. I think referring to the CRS legislation. I think the colleague Florian is asking, he thought the legislation was not put into force, but maybe it's because of the CS-DDD. Maybe you can clear that up.
Yes, I mean, it's not there yet, but it's something that we need to have in our mind and work on. The implementation has been delayed. So Florian, you're right, of course. But you're talking about here this, no? So, but it's important to know that it's gonna be coming at some point. So it's good to start thinking about it because it will be coming more and more. And some buyers already apply it, even if it's not a legal requirement. And that's why it's very important to keep in mind this pyramid that I showed here of the legal, and then you have the rest. Yeah, so it's also the market requirements sometimes are higher and often higher, actually.
Thank you.
Dorra.
Dorra, actually, I would suggest that you continue
yes,
with the presentation because the most important part and the core of what the import promotion desk is doing, that is still coming now.
Yes, exactly. But before you continue, Dorra, if I can just jump into everyone, we also have as the ABF extra resources on how to export to the EU, stay competitive and compliant. So I can also invite all of you to check the link in the chat later.
Thank you, Lou. Thank you, Stefan. I will go ahead. So now, import promotion desk. So our name says import promotion desk because we are a service to the German and European buyers, the importers, and at the same time a service to the exporters and the business support organizations in our partner countries. This is just a sheet to show you a little bit more information about the program. We exist since 2012. We are renewed since then. We are in our 5th phase. We are financed by the German Ministry for Economic Cooperation and Development, the BMZ. This is a little bit an overview of our budget. We are initiated by SEQA, so SEQA is our employer. We are one project of SEQA and also the Federation of German Wholesalers, the BGA. The BGA, of course, this is a good door of entry for us for the EU market, the German market, because it allows us direct contact with buyers to know a little bit the trends, what are their demands. And SEQA is very known for the capacity buildings in different countries of the world. So, and the program has been existing since 2012, and it means that it's working. That's why we keep being financed, hopefully. So we work in these two objectives. Increase the international competitiveness of the countries that we are partner with through supporting import promotion in different sectors. And through this, increased export, increased demand for workers, and increased employment, so growth through export promotion. IPD, as a project, Import Promotion Desk, we work in 2 levels. We work at the level of the chambers of commerce, branches, associations, export promotion agencies of the different countries. We call them BSOs, Business Support Organizations. And at the same time, at the micro level, with the companies that want to export to Europe, the cooperatives, and all the small and medium-sized enterprises that want to enter the export markets to the EU and reach European importers. So we work in these 2 levels. This is one more information about us. So this is in kind of number of exporters that are in the program, the companies that have successfully completed the program, You can see here a lot of buyers and exporters reach us, contact us, because they either are looking for suppliers and they know we do select suppliers through our work, or they want to get support to export to Europe. And this is the generated turnover to the EU so far. And this is the number of employees of export promotion organizations that we trained and reached increased markets, and thus increased the number of workers. So we work in 21 countries. You can see that Africa is the continent where we are present the most, and we in the countries that are not appearing here, it means that they are not yet partner of the program, but it doesn't mean that they will never be. It's a program that depends on the different corporations, and we have a steering committee that decides which countries we go to. So in Côte d'Ivoire and Kenya and Morocco, we have, and Ecuador, we have local hubs, so colleagues of ours that work between Germany and these countries. And the idea is to be more present there and be able to do more support and reach more exporters and more business support organizations, and reach the goal of supporting them and increasing their market share in Europe. And these colleagues that are sitting in the different offices do more work directly with the business support organizations, with the level of the meso level, as I said, which the goal is to train the trainers and support these organizations in improving their work to prepare the exporters to the EU. So supporting them do what they do already with more tips from our different sector knowledge and experts. These are the sectors where we work. So today, I think what is more important from the audience we have, so we work in 5 sectors. In the agricultural sector, we are in all what's fresh fruits and vegetables, natural ingredients, as I said, that includes all what comes from the nature and is processed in any way or form, dried, frozen, cosmetics, anything. And we are also in cut flowers. So the other sectors, so seafood, for instance, we are only in South Africa and Peru for the moment. And the other sectors, I think they're not pertinent for this call, which is sustainable tourism and digital services. So these are some examples of the subgroups that go under natural ingredients. So as I said, it includes everything that is processed in any way or form. Also cocoa, coffee, tea. Yes. So how does it work? How do companies enter the program? So the companies are either connected to us through partner programs like this one, like the GIZ and different programs that aim to improve the reach of small, medium-sized companies and cooperatives that want to export to Europe. They're also the connection is also made by the local business support organizations, export promotion agencies from Kenya, from Ghana, from Senegal, from the different countries where we are working. And companies do find us also online. They type Google export to Europe and they find us. So we tell them, okay, send us your profile and we will evaluate if you can enter the program. Once we have the program and we decide, okay, they do have the requirements, we need to go on site to visit the farm, to visit the factory, to visit the whole process to see if the company, the cooperative, or the producer do meet the requirements for the EU or not. If they need more capacity building, then we can connect them with partner support programs, or we do this ourselves, or a program like the Agri-Business Academy is of course full of resources for this also. So these are the requirements. The companies that we select and cooperatives need to be starting export to Europe, so they need to be already aware of the requirements or almost having the requirements. Otherwise, we will help them reach there. But they shouldn't be already established in Europe, because in that sense, they don't need our support. They are small and medium-sized enterprises as per EU definition. They need to be able to communicate in English. Of course, this is very, very, very important to reach other markets than the usual ones, where apart from for instance, for Francophones, of course, French and Francophone speaking countries in Europe are very important. But if we want to reach more European countries, we need to have somebody in our company, in the company or the cooperative, that needs to be able to communicate with prospective buyers. Of course, today is much helpful, the AI and all the digital tools we have that help write emails in different languages, reply. So I think this is the communication in English today. It's supported with the different technologies. It's made easier. There needs to be sufficient production capacities, and the products need to be products that are demanded in Europe. Import Promotion Desk as a project, we really work on demand, from the demand going. So as I said, one of our funders, also one of the founding members, also the wholesale organization of Germany, and that also allow us to know what is the demand among buyers. We also work with a lot of expert matchmaking consultants that come each with their knowledge of the EU, different countries, of the UK, of German markets, of Italian, Spanish, French, and from there we get the demand, and that's why we focus in our sourcing, in selecting the companies that have products that are interesting for the EU market, because maybe you have a very good product and it's good quality and you have the certificates, but if the product is not demanded in Europe, then it's very low chances that you have buyers interested in it. Once we agree that the company has the criteria, we go there and we have a visit, and once it's confirmed, the company begins the program and receives trainings. So the first phase is the capacity building. The capacity building and training phase is adapted to the level of the company. So different companies are at different levels. Some companies already have for instance, the certifications that I showed that are required for certain sectors. Some are still missing, so we will tell them which certificates are required and follow with them until they get the certificates. There are workshops on markets, market trends, on pricing, on how to set pricing, on how to set what is important in selecting buyers, because the buyers need to select suppliers, but you as suppliers need to make sure you select the buyer that is good for you as well. And once this phase of capacity building is done, we say, okay, this company, this cooperative is ready for export. From our sides, it's an additional criteria is reached. Okay, then the company has been selected. We visited the company. They are in the program. They completed the training. We can go with them to events to meet buyers. So the matchmaking is the heart of the import promotion desk. So as I said, we are connected through different networks to buyers from different sectors, and different kind of buyers, from supermarkets to end buyers to middle buyers, all of them. And they contact us and ask us for, do you know a producer of mango? Do you know a producer of sweet potato? Do you know? Why do they reach us? Because we are an additional source of confirmation for them that this buyer can trust the import promotion desk, went to the country, visited the company went through the capacity building. We are saying, okay, we vet this company, this cooperative has the requirements that you are looking for. So for them, it's much easier than traveling to Egypt, to Morocco, to Senegal, any country, South Africa, Ghana, and looking out of the blue because we already selected these companies. So for them, it's much easier. For the buyer, it makes the selection process easier, and it's an additional trust level for them. Of course, later they do the additional due diligence and do their selection as they wish, but matchmaking is at the heart of IPD. After capacity building, we do matchmaking. How is matchmaking done? So you have matchmaking that's done because buyers contact us and ask for specific products. Do you have cashew nut producer from different from Malawi, from specific country? Okay, then we say, okay, we have this and this cashew nut producer from this and this country with these quantities. This is the quantity of production. These are their certificates. They are in the program. We can recommend them to you. Okay, so it's a one-to-one. Then we have the bigger and most important kind of projects we have, which are the trade fairs. So IPD, of course, because we are a European project, we concentrate on European trade fairs. So for the fresh produce, for instance, we go to the two major trade fairs, which is Fruit Logistica in Berlin every February and Fruit Attraction in Madrid every October. For the processed sector, we go to different trade fairs. As I said, the major ones, it's Cial and Anuga. 1 year it's Cial, 1 year it's Anuga. For instance, this year there was Anuga in Cologne, and that's in October. Then there is the biggest trade fair for organic products in Europe, one of the biggest one, which is happening in Germany every year. It's Biofach. It happens in Nuremberg, and that's in February. We also go there. We also go to trade fair of cosmetics. It's called In Cosmetics. It happens in April. And for each and every trade fair that we go to, the companies were selected. We help them have good marketing material. They received sales training. They received training to know how to select the buyers, how to decide the pricing, how to calculate the pricing. We only take the companies with us to trade fairs once we are sure they can communicate in English also, or have somebody that can help them, because otherwise, if we put them in contact with the buyer and they cannot reply, then it's a problem for us, because the buyer will say, oh, you selected this company, and they cannot even communicate. So that's very important for us. So companies are supported before the trade fairs to be ready. At the trade fairs, we organize meeting for them. The companies need to select buyers that are interesting for them, and our matchmaking consultants, they support them in selecting, in organizing meeting. And the goal that we have is that companies that are in the program will be in IPD brochures, and these brochures are sent to buyers, and buyers can say, I am interested in producer X, Y, and Z. I want to meet them. So the goal is to always pre-organize meetings before trade fairs, so that the time investment, the money investment that each company does to participate to trade fair has fruits at the end. So the program, the companies that go to trade fairs, of course, the idea is that they do invest in doing exports. So companies need to be able to travel and invest in participating in trade fairs. IPD supports in the sort that the whole matchmaking and the entrance and all this is subsidized, so the participation fees are very adapted, and it is only a very small percentage of the real costs. Of course, IPD is a program that has no lucrative goals. We are financed by the government. So the goal is to support companies that are participating, reaching export markets in Europe. So that is the goal of the project. And to do this, we support before events and during the events to meet the consultants, and the whole IPD team is there to help organize meetings, help in the meetings. And very importantly, we collect data after every matchmaking event to say, company producing bananas from this country met buyer XYZ, and then we collect this for two purposes: to make sure that the event succeeded, and also to help each producer finalize the follow-up until they sell, because we also collect the data about the deals made. Of course, this is all very confidential. It's not shared with other producers. It's for our project managements to know which trade fairs are more successful, how many of the participants have been selling. And as you saw in the first slides, the project is successful so far, and that's why we're continuously being financed, because we show the data that shows that the matches we do lead to sales from the buyers, from the selected countries and companies that are in the program. We also take companies on selling missions, so producers from different countries. For instance, we do a folk last year. Well, 2 years ago, there was a selling mission in Cambodia where companies from Cambodia went to Europe to sell. I mean, not Cambodia, Sri Lanka, sorry. Selected companies were taken to meet buyers in the EU. There was also something like this about cacao, where companies from Latin America were taken to meet buyers in the Netherlands. And there's the same idea. Buyers then are introduced to these companies, and these companies also visit the premises to see how production is done in Europe, and then they can also discuss contracts. The same way we take also buyers to the partner countries. For instance, I organized with my colleagues a buying mission to Egypt last year, where we took 5 European buyers from Germany, the UK, the Netherlands to Egypt. And during this visit, they only visited companies that are in the program that we know already, that we have selected, and they could see how the production is done. And for the buyer, it's helpful because then they don't need to organize this. So we organize it for them. So it's incentive for them to travel to the country. Matchmaking on demand, I explained, whenever the buyers contact us and ask for a specific product. And of course, very, very important, the whole work of following up with all the matches and all the connections we make. In the end, the goal of the IPD program is to establish long-term business relationships between selected producers, suppliers from partner countries, and buyers from European countries. We also do, of course, support to the business support organizations. As I said, there are the organizations that support the export from your different countries. In each country, there are different associations for the fresh sector, for the nuts, for the cashews, for the cacao, and the IPD works with these different organizations to support them, improve their training services to companies like you, to help their trainers be trained. And the goal is to support the business support organizations in doing their job, which is to help exporters reach the EU markets. And there is a lot of coaching that we do also at the level of the business support organizations, like we do at the level of the companies, and to help them in their strategies of CSR, of export promotion. And the idea is here, it's just an example. It's not all the services that we do for the business support organizations. And a lot of what IPD does, as I said here also, it's always adapted to the level of the company or the level of the business organization. So it's not one training for everybody exactly the same. It's really trying to understand where the company is, where can we help, and how to reach the export markets. So if you are interested in joining the Import Promotion Desk, you can do so by sending us your company profile. This is a questionnaire online. So here I shared the different 3 sectors that I think some of you are from these different sectors, and you're welcome to join the program by sending us here. The questionnaire only asks about production levels, and the questions that I showed you that determine the criterias. I just wanted to open it for you here to show very quickly. Based on this, so it's just very shortly, the name of your company, where you are based, contact detail, and very importantly, like if you have a farm, what are your products, number of workers. So this is also to determine the size of the company, if you fit in, if you have a pack house, did you have exports to Europe? It's very basic questions that help us see if you have the requirements to enter the IPD program. So this is all from me, and I'm happy to answer any questions. I think there are some in the chat.
Yes, of course. Thank you. First of all, thank you very much, Dorra, for this very intensive and comprehensive presentation. And I think our 36 participants, they really liked it. And yeah, great. Thanks a lot. We still have 18 minutes to go, and I think we definitely should use this time. But first of all, let me ask you two questions. Can I, after this call, share your presentation to the participants? Great.
Yes.
And can I also share your email address to the participations?
Yes, yes, yes.
To the participants. Okay,
yes.
Great. I think this is very good. So actually, I would suggest questions which are more on standards or specific standards you might do in a written way later on and directly approach Dorra, because what we want to avoid a little bit that questions are too specific, and let's more focus on the work which the import promotion desk is really doing. So therefore, there was one question in the chat from Baba Asmara. What are the underlying costs for Global Gap or Fair Trade certification? It's quite specific question, and it's difficult to answer, isn't it, Dorra?
I mean, I can, as I said, I used to be a fair trade certification body employee, so I can tell you that the certification costs in general have a lot of different elements that determine them, which are how big your organization is, what are the products that you have. So it's really, I cannot answer you really, but this information you can find on the website. For instance, for fair trade, you can go on the website, there is a cost calculator. Global Gap, you can ask the main certification bodies that you have in your country. They will give you a rough estimate. 2,000, some is 2,000 euro, 1,000 euro. I can't give you anything. It depends on the level that you are reaching also in Global Gap, and also the size of your organization. So my advice, go to the websites of the different certification that you want to reach. There is a lot of information that you don't even need to pay anyone or to give you. It's there.
Yes, thanks, Dorra. I think your advice is really great. There are two questions in the chat from Margaret, but before we come to Margaret's question, let us just take this short question from Florian. Why were especially those particular countries chosen? Why those ones and not others?
Thank you, Florian. So this the decision comes from the steering committee of the import promotion desk. It's also coming from the ministry that also finances the import promotion desk, and it also comes from the countries. So basically, it's the countries that need to approach us. There needs to be also at the level of the ministry agreement that this company can, this country, and the country needs to have enough producers, exporters, processors, products to enter the program, and offer that can reach the export market in the EU.
Thank you.
Thank you, Florian.
Thank you very much, Dorra. And now let us start with a question from Margaret. She just takes an example from Albania. And ladies and gentlemen, you can read this in the chat. Can you, Dorra, give recommendations in case of European Union import bans due to pesticide residue? reduced. And there's one example mentioned. Unreliable Albanian exporters are causing huge problem for serious exporters who are losing their markets despite long-standing relationships with loyal customers in the European Union. What can the serious exporters do to retain their customers in such cases?
Thank you, Margaret. Thank you, Stefan. This is a very interesting and difficult question. Of course, this is the slides that I showed before, the reputation and the how having voluntary certificates can help you convey more your message. Yeah, that you are not following only the rules, but doing an extra to show that you're really diligent about it. Unfortunately, of course, this reputation that comes from one or two people or companies that don't follow the rules. Of course, we've seen this happen with many other countries in the past, whether it's for organic certification or the level of MRLs or packaging issues. And I think there isn't a clear and easy answer. What we always recommend, of course, is to be very, very transparent with the buyer and communicate and explain what you are ready to do as a producer, or what the producer is ready to do to show that they are following all the rules, whether it's additional certificates, whether it's asking them to do their internal audits and their third-party audit from the buyers, whether it's Lidl or Rewe or Edeka. They all have independent additional party checks, or Tesco, they have Nature Choice, or it's communication. Very transparent. Say, okay, this happened in country X. I am from country X, but our company is very diligent. We have these certificates. We are open for you to come do your own controls. And communication is also a very important element of our trainings, so to say, because it can be that the company, the producer, has the best product, has the certificates, has everything, but there's a problem of communication, because if the buyer asks questions, for instance, to make the decision, should I buy from you or from another, and he doesn't get an answer, then it doesn't go. But then if there is a ban from the EU, of course, that's more difficult. If the ban is at the level of the continent, of course, this is something outside of my I don't know. This has to be waited on until legally, of course, such exports can go from the country. Unfortunately, this something happened similarly in Egypt, and Egypt was on a red list for a long time, but for some kind of products, but then they came out of it. So we can only hope that this ban will not be long. Thank you, Margaret.
Thanks, Dorra. And I think, if a ban, Margaret has written another example here. An import ban means that all exporters from a specific country are not allowed to export to European Union. From my point of view, this is also an issue which the country has to solve, first of all, on their home market. That means they have to do the homework to make sure that those exporters which are not reliable and not serious, they have directly to stop their business or stop any export activities. And this is, from my point of view, also in the responsibility of their countries of origin. Yeah. Thank you. And please, ladies and gentlemen, feel free feel free just to raise your hand, open your microphone and your camera if you have any direct questions to Dorra. There is one more question in the chat, which I did not mention, again from Margaret. If the import promotion desk can recommend steps to take or even support an upgrade from delivering Lidl to Edeka. But if this question, Dorra, is too specific, I can also give you the email address of Margaret, and you can directly respond to her, and you can just share experience there.
Thank you. What I want to add is this is kind of the trainings we do also. We have currently some training that will take place about how to support companies to reply to and be conform with supermarket requests that can differ from one to one. So, but feel free to contact me, and if not me, I will direct you to who can support. Thank you. If there are no questions, I wanted to share the website. So the IPD website is also full of resources. And of course, you can click on the little flag to have the English version. Otherwise, it will be in German. And under publications, I just wanted Stefan to show a very concrete example of what we do. So if you click on publications, you can here, for instance, access the different brochures and that we do to prepare different trade fairs and market the companies. So I will just open, for instance, Anuga. This is the trade fair I talked about in October. And this is the trade fair with a lot of companies, because we are there since many years, and the processed products are very different, of course. So these are the countries that were represented, for instance, at this trade fair. The list here, for instance, to explain to you what we do with matchmaking, it's not all the companies that are in the program, it's the companies that were invited and replied and were communicative to be part of this trade fair with the support of IPD. What happened is that this brochure that is organized by country, as you can see, for instance, here, and by product, here is sent to the buyers, okay? And the buyers will be contacted by the matchmaking consultant team, who will ask them, what product are you interested in? So they will say, for instance, cacao. Okay, I will put you in contact with a company for cacao. So this is how it works. And this is a very concrete example. I just wanted to show Stefan so that they have an example of the kind of concrete work we do with the companies that were selected and followed the whole trainings. Here, for instance, here, Chile from Ghana, the buyer receives this and then sees, okay, this is the production quantities, interesting for me. The company has organic, I'm interested. This was just one example. And on our website, there is a lot of resources also on products, information on trends and things like this. So I invite them I will share the link here on the website. Yeah. The link.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dorra. So for our participants, you have still for five minutes time to think about questions, but let me hand over very briefly to my colleague, Lou Lefort, because she wants to present to you what we as Agri-Business Facility for Africa can offer you as e-learning tools, which are also in this sector. Please, Lou, come in.
Yes, thank you so much for coming back to that, because I think it was related to a lot of questions and to a lot of things you were saying, Dorra, so that there are a lot of available resources from you, and I really encourage participants to go through to your presentation and see the links, but also at our level we have prepared, let me share my screen shortly, you can access it through our website, a course that is called Export to the EU, Stay Compliant, Stay Competitive, that also directs you to all these different resources. And that can be complementary, of course, to what also Dorra explained. A lot is recouping, a lot is complementary, let's say, and it will help you set up this kind of legal watch system so that you can stay up to date on the new regulation, because as you said, some things are there, some things are coming, but still need to be prepared by the business way in advance. So we really want to encourage you. I posted it in the chat, and if you click the link, you will directly arrive on our page and the Agri-Business e-Academy. You can register if you are a newcomer, or you can directly access if you are a person with an account. And we introduce you to some of our course. The one we recommend specifically to stay up to date to legal standard in the EU export is this one. Export to the EU, stay compliant, stay competitive. But you see there is other opportunities for you, specifically preparing for the EUDR or understanding the organic certification in the specific case of the SADC EU Economic Partnership Agreement. So we really invite you. Everything is free of charge, as is all course on our e-academy. So we really invite you to continue the learning with us.
Thank you very much, Lou. All right, ladies and gentlemen, are there any further remarks, any further questions from your side? As we have already announced, we are going to share the presentation with you. We will share again the link to our e-academy. Lou has already done this. I put the email address of Dorra in the chat. And of course, you will get a link to the YouTube video we are going to do from this expert talk today. Any further remarks, ladies and gentlemen? Otherwise, we are going to close it. All right, I see no further comments in the chat. I do not see any hands raised. Okay, then let's come to an end. Dorra, thank you very, very much that you did it alone and also replaced Angie. And I think you gave an excellent presentation divided into two parts. First of all, about all the different standards, and then about the work, what the import promotion desk is doing. And I think I really hope, but we really hope that some of our colleagues from all over the world, or even business people from all over the world might contact you and ask you, hey, we have an interesting agricultural enterprise here in Kenya or in Vietnam or in Sri Lanka. Please, can you help us creating business linkages to Germany? And this would be really excellent if today's expert talk is a starting point for new and sustainable business relations. Yeah, and that's it for the moment, ladies and gentlemen. Let me thank you on behalf of the Agri-Business Facility for Africa, and we wish you all a very excellent day. Thank you very much, and we stay in touch. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Merci, thank you.